Hello folks, beatdown here. There's narrating on a match for new standard. On the left side of the screen, that's green black elves, and on the right side, it's this standouts of not so long-ended standard season Abzan Aggro. It is one of the decks where you would probably start if you've been playing for a long time in the past year. Basically, the deck just changes a few cards, adjusts the mana base, and ready to go. So it's one of the decks which you would probably face in the coming couple of weeks, and also they're adjustable and probably would be one of the decks to beat for the Pro Tour. So just where people will start and go on from there. So rock and rolling. Elves are on the play here. Basically, with elves coming out of Magic Origins, you probably want to be Abzan Rally with Rhinos and Rally the Ancestors, but you don't have to be. This is a more beatdown deck, like fully trying to maximize all the synergies for elves. The loss of Elvish Mystic was a bit of a bummer, but it's okay. Turn 1 Trapper here, that's the hurtful mana dork, plus it gets your target attacking elf death touch until end of turn. Just a Citadel from Abzan. So a few things I could do here, because essentially I have a mana dork. And also the fact that your 1 mana drops are mostly like just a Trapper and the Archer in this deck, so untapped Black Source in turn 1 is one of the big factors for the mana base. Adding up a Llanowar Waste to the board, smashing in with the Trapper, 2 mana and Elites. So because I had Trapper in play, I got an extra Elf token 1/1, and the Elite itself is a 2/2, so very good start for me. He cracks Windswept Heath here in turn 2, fetches up a forest. As you can see probably here now, we're using up a few proxies here. Like Warden was kind of a standout and kind of a not a standout for Abzan Aggro, so it was a very awkward card. And of course the new lands, it's hard after just a perilous weekend to get your hand on all of them. With the help of the Trapper, I'm casting here turn 3 the Elves Lord, whatever, the 3/4 reach guy. So my guys offer a trade for Rakshasa Dev Dealer. He probably doesn't want to do that. Meanwhile, I'm just switching off the internet on my phone so that nothing crazy pops up on top of my life total. Another fetch. He's down to 12 already. So he had a decent start, although he was on the draw. So just a tablet into Death Dealer, which probably didn't want to block, and now just 2 fetches. Okay, I provided some beatdowns. But as you can see, like, the deck is working in the style of Red Deck Queens, kind of a. So just a Warden of the whatever tree. So he can make it as a 3/3 here. Maybe Trader eats some of my guys, but I have Trappers, so basically if I want to, like, his blocks won't be as good as he would like to. Well, he has Death Dealer, which probably is gonna eat up something. Like something small, probably just a token or a Trapper itself, because he would have to regenerate it, and I can play around his pump, that's for sure. So seeing what's coming, just probably going all in. So couple of Elvish Visionaries to cycle through some cards, make a bigger army. Basically, the deck really wants to build the board for Shaman of the Pack and Might of the Masses, of which there are 4 main decks. So this is a really linear beatdown deck. Yes, like cards like Lanquish or some new Master Movers are kind of annoying, but between Allied Visionary, Kalaki Company, and Sylvan Messenger, the deck can actually reload quite fast. So if you are losing like few dudes, like it's not a big deal. The deck basically restocks the hand and the board very quickly. He laid down a land number 4 and just passed, so signifying that he probably wants to like use up the Death Dealer to some extent at least, and then maybe like play some removal. It's hard to imagine he would have ultimate price main deck in the new standard. So just played out an Archer. I think my next play was just like doing some funky stuff with Shaman of the Pack. Here draining for 8. He's falling down to 4. Well, he's gonna respond to that, so yeah. That was actually what was the case. So he's charming away the Dwynen or whatever the name of the Seabed Lord. But he still... No, he was supposed to actually... no, he took 1 pain from the wastes, that's why. Okay, so he still technically took 8. But then I had the one of like Shriek. Basically what it does is for 1 mana, like they take damage and you gain that much life. It equals to number of attackers, so in which case 4. So even before blocks he's dead. Well, even if he like would block here, he would really need I know a card like Bile Blight to actually do stuff. So that's the whole point of this Elves deck, like you just go below them. You go underneath their curve and make all their like 3 mana spells actually very clunky. Abzan Aggro like doesn't play any Lanquish, it's the control bills like which would draw them, and you would have to sometimes play a little bit around that. But Abzan Aggro out of sideboard is supposed to have Tragic Arrogance, like at least a couple of them, but like his post-rotation build doesn't really have them. Well, it does make a bit of sense, although like of course in this matchup it will be just fantastic. Arrogance was in the sideboards of Absent lists because of the Blue-Red Scissors deck. I mean, then saw the artifacts deck, the top tier beatdown deck. Then it was against Devotion decks and against Enchantress decks. So with all of those basically gone, so no Devotion, no Scissors deck, no Enchantress deck. Maybe Arrogance is actually not super needed. But then again, like, what would he play? He can't really play Lanquish. So that would be, like, kind of weird. And no Elspeth either. No Drowning Sorrow as well. So it's a tricky spot. Like, how Abzan Aggro decks like are supposed to beat Swarm Aggro decks. With Abzan control it's much easier because you can always just like run those Lanquishes and that's it. Or like End Hostilities or whatever. I think it might be the answer actually. Arishan Cleric is good and all that, but it's not the best tool. So just Trapper into Visionary in the tap land from me, and there was a Death Dealer from him. actually trying to sort of race here. It's a bit surprising to me. Well, he paused before combat damage. Basically, explained that he's commanding up the dealer and fighting the trapper, so less mana for me. Just a third land, I think it's wastes. 2 mana, visionary, just like digging for stuff and never tap lands. My hand was real slow, so not the place I want to be in this matchup, that's for sure. That's for sure. He's smashing with the Death Dealer. Actually, he's a pretty good spot to race here. Case of Coilus joining from him. I think that's the one. Yeah. And now the new Gideon. Going to do some work. My board is not spectacular, so a 2/2 token actually gonna be quite okay here. The tap lands are really poopy, so and you're not happy, but you have to run them because mana requirements are kinda crazy. So overloading on a bunch of visionaries and the Soulport Cutthroat, that's the new Blood Artist, the guy like that trains for each creature you control that dies, including himself. So I've squeezed in 2 copies of him, but I don't know, maybe I would go up to just a playset of them, because it seems like it's one of the decks which actually it's gonna fit in. He's animating Gideon here, so really going into offensive here. Yeah, it's like I have some champ blockers which will drain some life, but he has 5 mana, so there are lots of things he could do, including I think he has the access to the 2/3 lifelink manlands on his side of the board, hiding there among the lands he has here. So champ blocking Gideon is really a problem. He opted for Gideon here over Sorin, and I still like Sorin, so he's running it up. I'm down to 8 and facing so much damage next turn, so yeah, like there's pretty much no way for me to get back into this game. 4 visionary cast, and yeah, like two slow hands, no trumps. So you have to figure over Sorin, but I really do like the fact that life linking up your team is one of the factors why Abzan Aggro is so good sometimes against a lot of other creature decks. I think Gideon is way better in Abzan control decks. That's the way I see it. So Sorin really wants you to be like creature heavy, I think, but Gideon is fine on its own. So I think Gideon and Obnixilis fits way better in the slower, like controlish version of Abzan. But Sorin is probably still much better in aggro versions. It's still okay, but I don't see how you can find room for both of them. Probably some people gonna experiment like a 1-in-1 main deck or something like that. It could be that it would just be like a sideboard card, like cause the deck lost Elspeth, which used to be like a solid 2 off in the sideboard. So I think that like Gideon's gonna replace Elspeth in the sideboard for the aggro version or something like that. Because against, let's say, control version of Abzan, you would probably want to take out like Dromoka's commands or something like this, and then bring in like extra threats in the form of planeswalkers. So yeah, I think that's the configuration lots of people will be heading towards, or at least assuming. Sorin main and Gideon sideboards, and then just Gideon main deck and like Obnixilis like for control versions. Somebody asked me in the comments for another video that like what kind of list for Tutelage or Megamorph I can foresee in post rotation, and I think we're probably looking at Megamorph being the version of choice in terms of Abzan control, because you already run Den Protectors, and then you can just replace Coursers with Raptors and move on that direction. A bit of a faster start for me this game, because I have some like 1-drops, but the Whirlwind Wilds kind of slows me down a little bit. So there is no like new Tangle Land in those colors. Fetches don't do really anything except for filling up your graveyard for delve spells. So doesn't really matter to run them or not. There's no mana conflicts that, well, you do have like Landwear Wastes and stuff, but a lot of your other fixing just tap lands. So that's the sad part. But I guess like this is what you have to do. Sadly. So smashing with Archer, he can't block it because I can give it Death Touch here. So, and then that will be a bad trade for him for the Death Dealer. Messenger, showing up some stuff, like giving me another Archer and the Elf Lord. So there we go. I gotta be in a decent shape here. I mean, they can face in just one kitty, and I have like 3 creatures out, and I have more to come, and I have the mana, and like he can probably cast something, but it's not gonna be insanely impactful. Well, John like was actually okay, but these are I believe post-board games, so I think like I had an answer to it, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think it could be much worse. Basically, Drown is another card that this Elves deck could use, and I'm probably getting those. It's much better as, for example, Liliana in this deck. Drown gives you much more tempo, and Liliana is a mid-range grindy card, and you're not really grinding, you're just pushing the damage through. And Drown is pretty okay at that. Remember that, like, so I'm bashing in with some dudes here. He can't kill either of them, thanks to the Elf Lord, the Dwaynen. So the Messenger is 3/3, Archer is 2/3, and he can definitely block the 2/3 Archer with it. So he didn't realize it at first, but then like it hit him. That's like, what the hell? Like he could have just saved himself like 2 more life. 2 of the precious life here. So instead of going to 8, went down to 10. So we're testing out here, so some taxis, backsies are allowed to figure out an optimal play. Basically, so keep in mind that if John has first strike, so that goes through first if opponent has no responses, and then you pump your team, so basically it doesn't take you an extra turn, so when you get to attack with it and they have no response, you get to pump your team the same turn and actually use that extra buff in the same combat. So you just cast an Anafanza here and pass the turn. I think he had to take like 2 damage to cast it, yeah. And a Citadel. So his mana base is actually backfiring at him. So Elites using the Trapper, casting Shaman of the Pack, draining him for 8, and that's exacties. So he scoops it up and we move on to the second game. Well, obviously, like, this deck is kind of like weak to Languish and mass removal and stuff like that. But that's why like Juris is coming from the sideboard to answer that. Right now in my sideboard I'm trying out like 3 Despises and 3 Jurises. Despise actually gets a little bit better because there will be like quite a few Planeswalkers lying around, and against a deck like his you actually want Despise. Like, of course, like Thoughtseize was a big loss, but what can you do? And maybe the 2 mana Appetite for Brains kind of card might actually be in my sideboard at some point, depending on the metagame. So, because I'm bringing in a bunch of like Despises and a bunch of removal, I'm taking out companies, taking out the Shriek, though I do love the card, but I need some space. Taking out Might of the Masses. It's a creature deck after all, because like Might is okay, but I would rather have just solid removal to answer some like particular guy. So taking out Forest Mage, which shouldn't be probably in the deck in the first place, but I just wanted to maximize all the synergies. I wanted the Company to do something, I wanted Messenger to do something, I wanted Shaman of the Pack to have a decent elf count and stuff like that. So, but those are probably Dranas, and maybe some flexible slots in the deck could be Cutthroat number 3 or 4, something like that. So that's probably what's gonna end up happening. I'm still just like tuning this build. I'm bringing in Despises, Murderous Cuts, a couple of self-inflicted wounds, definitely bringing in Massacre, the one-sided mass removal, which this deck gets to play. It's because of his hanger backwalkers and stuff like that. So, and also, if I attack with some of my small guys, he tears with his big guys, like with Massacre, there's a chance that I can get a decent outcome out of that. Kind of finish off his guys and stuff like that. After GP Copenhagen, I thought I had like quadrillion of those Gem Fireball sleeves, but yeah, like I've been running out of them and using for different decks and giving them to friends who needed like sleeves right there on the spot. So yeah, and then yeah, realized that yeah, I do have like more or less enough for the sideboard. Sleeves are just an eternal debate still after all these years. There are really no best ones in existence of this. I didn't face any like really super optimal. The KMC ones are decent, but like they also have their drawbacks as well. They're kind of pricey. So I added 1 Minister of Pain, also for Hangerbuck Walker, also like to try to finish off his team, stuff like this. So he's taking out 1 Ravenous Path, or whatever the card is called, the new Hero's Downfall. He's thinking of taking out some kitties, definitely taking out Valerie Stance, because it doesn't really have targets in my deck. Bring in some ultimate prices, that's for sure. Yeah, it looks like he's thinking about his own self-inflicted wounds, but he actually opted not to bring them because like I have like quite a few tokens and stuff like that, but at the same time like some of my creatures are black, so it could be decent, but he definitely wants Ancient Cleric against me. I'm kind of a mono red type of deck, and yeah, Death Dealers are definitely bad. Like they block some stuff, but they like so many intensive and they don't do much like once they come out. So it's like really a creature against mid range more or less. Not really best creature against other aggro decks, especially against faster aggro decks. Basically, the Black Warriors which I played against yesterday, so that is Thursday and today's Friday, and we played this matchup on Wednesday. Yeah. So Black White Warriors there actually brought it in against me, the wound, because he's actually an aggro deck and which can sometimes actually outrace me thanks to some double strike shenanigans from the mono white Anafenza, the foremost, no, not the foremost, some, well, the Fate Reforged Anafenza, basically. Yeah. So they're like self-inflicted is okay, and in this matchup maybe it's not the right card. So if I like go into start with a one drop and then elite with the token, so yeah, one is not that great. He's actually not playing Tragic Arrogance here, like in the sideboard, which I can understand to some extent. So all the craziest matchups, like for which Arrogance was put into the sideboards of many decks, all of those are gone. But that deck really can't play language, so it's really hard to say like what this deck can actually play. It feels like it might come down to playing that 4 mana Infest, so like the Awaken spell, which makes like all the creatures in play like -2/2. It might come down to that actually against Swarm aggro decks for Abzan Aggro. Well, Drown and Sorrow used to be like a staple in Abzan Aggro, at least before hanger backs and stuff. So you just have like those lines and stuff that survive, and then you kill all the swarm shenanigans. Yeah, like look here. So he basically started with a black white manland into hanger back, and I started with the archer into elite. And he's actually not in a great shape here, so basically he can do stuff here. Things can get like really weird here. You see him having like Erishin Cleric in there, in his hand, so that's a good thing to have. But it's not like that spectacular. Fetch lands. Might have. Oh no, he had. Yeah, he had 2 fetches. Yeah, so that's why he was 16 and then 19. So 1/3 is actually quite relevant here, and then he can have some mana to charge up the Walker. So not the best board for me to face, but as I said, like not something super bad. Though here, like, Might of the Masses would have been pretty handy. So maybe I was wrong when I was, like, taking it out. Maybe I should have taken out some other card, but it's hard to, like, figure out what exactly. Company is not at its best in this matchup, that's for sure. Well, at least that's how I feel, at least, about this matchup. But yeah, Might of the Masses would have been like pretty useful here. It would allow me to have decent trades. Having like a 3rd land and then playing Drana would have been also pretty useful, because then next turn I would be able to actually smash in for quite some damage. Shaman was okay here, but I wouldn't be able to attack. I think I had a Minister of Pain in my hand or a Massacre or something like that for his Hangerbeck Walker tokens. Once that construct actually gonna fall apart. He's tanking here. Well, the board doesn't look like super scary for him, but not great either. He goes for the gain tap lands, then Hanger back at 1, keeping 1 mana up to charge the other one. He's passing the turn. Well, I can't really attack that well. And he's at 2 high life total. Probably taking out those Evolving Wilds. I think the mana requirements are not that absurd. So I'm probably cutting those because I really want some more untapped lands to keep up the pace. The problem is that like all the green fetches that exist, they don't do anything for this deck. There are no like duels to fetch with them. And there is no green-black fetch just yet. Hopefully it's coming. So the mana is not the greatest for green-black, that's for sure. Definitely still playing the gain lands, the common duels. But a Wildland Wilds, yeah, probably cutting them. Even with like green cards and stuff like Drana in the deck. But outside of maybe like one Elvish Lord, like there are no double greens, so that's okay. And the Trapper, the black 1-drop, actually gives green mana for Elves. So it's more of a black deck than green deck, essentially. At least this deck has Land Over Wastes, at least stats. So smashed in there, he charged up his guy. Basically allied 8 a creature or something like this. Then I cast the Murderous Cut on the 3/3 Hanger pack, so that next turn I can probably like cast the Minister of Pain and eat that up. He has quite a bit of mana here. Now I actually think like tables might turn a bit. So he's smashing with some Durdles, so the 3 top 3 tokens and the 2 free manlands coming in. Taking some damage, that's not that bad, but the lifelink on that manlands actually might come to bite me. It is a bit sad that Abzan Aggro like really requires a lot of those new lands to reincarnate the mana base. On the other hand, like you have this benefit of needing essentially just like put back Death Dealers instead of a line. So of course like there are some cards like Nixlis or Gideon that you might use, and you probably have to run the new Downfall, things like that, but first week like maybe you don't really have to. You would like to, but it's not like insanely relevant unless like you're going to some giant open tournament like SCG. Then probably want to invest a bit. Yeah, it's basically just a mana base, like that's a good part of the deck. So I'm not sure like how good it will be in the new format, but I expect Abzan Aggro like to be one of the decks that people are just gonna play because a lot of people had it. And it's just about the mana base, basically. pretty sure a lot of people just pre-ordered it, like all those like duels. So trying to smash for some damage here, he's putting his cleric on the archer, he took some damage, he's going down to 10. This Minister of Pain took out the top tiers via sacrificing a token. Right, he drew, I think, an ultimate prize here. He's still in a decent shape. It's basically, yeah, if he would have had an untapped land, he could have, like, priced... No, he had an untapped land in hand. So, because he could have essentially, priced my Minister and then smash in with the mainlands. He wants to, like, keep it on defense, which might be okay. So, and have, like, 1 mana up to charge the walker. That's an okay strategy, I guess. It might be better. It's, like, not 100% clear. I don't know why I tapped there this way. Well, yeah, I guess mainly because there are no, like, green 1-drops. So got a shaman and something else. Out of that messenger. Can't exactly attack here, that's the sad part. So yeah, like, I think it was incorrect to take out Might of the Masses. Even though they have removal, but sometimes it actually can be very handy. Though you have to be cautious, so price will probably in the sideboards. But it will be in the deck, so you kind of have to play around that. Plus Abzan Charm actually knocks the guy, which is pumped by the might. But still, like, if you say, like, cast a pump, like, on the archer here, and then, like, trying to block, like, one of his fatties, like, that's an okay deal, right? If they price it in response, you're not losing too much with this kind of board. So, a light and the shaman, in response to that trigger, he's gonna kill something. My guess, like, he probably should have killed the minister, maybe, I don't know. He's killing the archer, that's interesting. If he would be up for Elves, I probably would just take out messenger, because it tramples. Then he probably did notice that I took out the pumps. Though he doesn't know my exact list. Maybe there are more pumps in the deck. I guess it doesn't make much sense of killing Minister because it doesn't help you against the Shaman trigger. And then, like, the Archer could just, like, deal that one remaining, like, last point of damage, potentially. If it comes down to that. He has a lot of mana to operate here. His Hanger is already at 4 counters. But apparently no Dromoka's commands to be seen. There is a chance that you might want to go up to 4 Dromokas. Jeskai decks lost a lot of good cheap burn spells, and then, like, just a lot of also, like, instant black removal is gone. So you might wanna be able to take apart your walker more consistently. So there is a chance that you might want, like, 4 Dromokas. There's a real chance of that. The other features of the Dromoka's command are not insanely relevant. At least for a week 1 standard. I'm in a bit of a tough spot here. Kinda like, well, trying to murder Scott on his mainlands during the Alpha Strike. He scoops it up because, yeah, like, there's not much he can do here. Yeah, Gideon and the land in hand, so not much stuff to help him out. I had a massacre once, like his walker falls apart. So yeah, some kind of answer to those worm decks, like, is needed. Just to know, like, what it will come down to. Arrogance or at 4 mana infest. Hard to say. A lot of people would think that's like, yeah, Monrad has lost like so much, though there's still like Goblin variants and the deck that I'm trying to kind of push forward, or, well, not promote or advertise, but just advise people to actually try out as black-red tokens. But Mardu Aristocrats or Mardu tokens with Butcher and Hanger might be just overall better deck, but I still do like black-red tokens as well because it can go underneath a lot of decks. What are the essential benefits of running green for a Hanger Backwalker deck? Not a huge amount. Well, Abzan Charm is great, yeah. Actually, I don't know, like, some people might go like real ambitious and with a bunch of Trilands actually try a mix of Abzan Aggro and Mardu Aggro, just running both Rhine and Butcher in the same deck. Don't think the mana should be quite okay to do all that. I have a like very slow start here with just a Visionary in turn 2. He gets an Offenza. Try to have a roadblock, Cleric in his hand, so things are not amazing for me. Just some turtles. His position is way better. That's for sure. So for my draws to work out a lot, we'll have to go right. So before damage, he's actually casting Jamoka to fight away the mana dork, make his offense bigger. That's not a huge loss. It does slow me down a little bit, but I would need to have a removal for his offense anyway sometime soon. I think I do have a murderous cut here somewhere. Yeah, so smashing in with these two for a couple damage, and then cut an offensa, and hoping his next thrust won't be like insane. He also has a Gideon in play. That's also a bit of an eye. And he's casting it here upping it up to, what is it? No, it's upping only for animation or something, or is it upping for tokens as well? Well, it's a new card, so I hope you didn't make a mistake with the loyalty counters here. So you made it 2/2 Knight token, taking a bit of damage, casting Messenger. And once again, Might of the Masses would have been like pretty good here. Just cast a random dude and then pump one of my elves to kill the Gideon. Since that, it's just Messenger plus the Trapper. He's gonna make another token with it, and then it will be pretty hard to get through. Sometimes I even want to run that stupid 6 mana spell like that. The overrun with the must block effect. But I guess that's like too cute to be playable. He's actually went on an aggressive route, so attacked with the token and the Gideon. So that was a bit surprising here. Well, not just surprising, but also kind of a bit of annoying, because that means like he has a lot of stuff to do. He cracked the fetch and cast Dren and the Cleric, so I'm like, holy cow. And he's a 20 and I'm a 10, like that's just bananas. That's just bananas. There are probably cards potentially that could be used to get me out of this, like in a much more efficient way. Murderous card is okay, taking out Drana. I don't think my sideboard with the Elves deck has space like for both price and cut takes out anything. Smashing in with the Elves. Yeah, making that one Death Touch with the Trapper, so that at least I get rid of Cleric with the Visionary. Out of the Masses, oh my god. Like taking out Gideon would have been like such a big deal here. So actually, yeah, like maybe my deck should potentially run the new Downfall as well. Also takes out any creature. It's not an instant. It's gonna cost 3. While cut sometimes may cost less. But the path is a good like top deck in terms of like it takes out something like this, potential like Obnixilis or etc. Can take out Chase, which might be actually a big player in the standard once again, and gives me some attacker. Probably should get my hands on some of those. So he's matching both with Gideon and the token, so that can't be good news for me. Took 2 from the Knight, jumped with the Visionary on the Gideon, then he goes for Hangerback Walker with 3 counters. But he's like with 1 card left in his deck, so I mean in his hand. I think it's just 1. So the situation is not like insanely terrible, but it is kind of annoying. I'm not done just yet, but the situation is definitely not in my favor. Because Abzan Aggro is such a big tap out kind of deck. Yeah, so instant tricks are real good. Or just some like weird cards like the Might. I actually seriously considered running the +4/+4 pump. I forgot the name. Titanic Growth, I think, yeah. Even though it costs 2 mana, which is not great. But yeah, I just really wanted to beat the deck as beat down as possible. I might actually reconsider it again. I don't know, depending. But I do need a very high creature count for Messengering Company and Shaman. So those are big deals. Yeah, like definitely Elf Rally would have been a fine deck as well. But like there is no crazy combo with okay, like there is Rana and Shaman, but no great spells to dump. Like Wayfinder was such a great big loss. Gather the Pack does exist, but it's hard to say what you really want. I think this deck can fight the rally version as well, pretty decently. So cast Elf Lord here. Yeah, I think why I tap this way? Because I would probably want to. I know, like this way. Actually, both of my guys can trade with the Walker. But then if I trade, he gets like a bunch of top tiers. That's kind of annoying. So really, my hopes are that he doesn't have a removal for the Lord, because it has reach and it's a 3/4, so it can block like top tiers and shit. I think I went with both to Gideon because he's at such a high life. Gideon at 1, Messenger trades for the Walker, he gets those top tiers. 3 of them. Then Despise on him. And it's just Absent Charm. The worst news ever. So he's explaining to me that's like I better do something because he has littles here. So I need more chump blockers. Falling down to 6, a light. So he's gonna charm my Dwyden. It's actually a pretty nice feature of the Elves deck. Like, it's pretty decent against like Absent Charms in general. Here, of course, it's gonna wreck my ass, but still, like, it stands, Absent Charm, some other removes like this, some of the discard spells. So a lot of this stuff doesn't work that well against Elves. By the look of a bunch of like very weird brews that people come up with the new set, I actually do think that I might wanna go up to 4 Juruses in the sideboards. Charm on my elf. I don't know like whether I should board in Jurus against him. So they're all planeswalkers and some removals. But most of the time it will miss. Basically have to like jump Gideon and something to not die, falling down to 1. But he has those stoppers and yeah, pretty much no answer for that. Should have maybe like boarded in 1 more Minister of Pain here for situations like this. And also like Drana would have helped against him as well, quite a bit. So yeah, need to get those. Alright folks, that's it for this matchup between Green-Black Elves and Abzan Aggro. Let me know if you feel like there's some tweaks or in tuning you would have done to those decks, especially like think of the sideboard materials, especially for Elves, I would say. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, follow all the updates on all the social networks, at all the accounts. If you think of like some really cool brew with the new sets, like let me know in the comments. Also in the comments I will try to review that and tell you like what's my opinion on those things, on such and such decks, etc. and on the format. So it doesn't have to be standard, it could be limited as well with the new set. So until the next sale, folks. See you next time. Goodbye.